In politics, power is usually something you fight for, something you win. But every now and then, it arrives when you least expect it, wrapped in tragedy. This is the incredible story of Samia Suluhu Hassan, a leader who rose to the highest office in Tanzania under some of the most dramatic circumstances imaginable, becoming the nation's first ever female president. Her journey is one of quiet, steely determination, and her presidency, well, it's been anything but predictable.
Just think about that for a second. Those are your very first words as the new leader of your country. There's no celebration, no victory parade, just a nation in shock and a new president tasked with guiding it through immense grief. This one sentence right here, it just captures the incredible weight of the moment Samia Suluhu Hassan was suddenly thrust onto the world stage.
So, yeah, her presidency didn't kick off with a triumphant election night. It began because the Constitution demanded it, right in the middle of a national crisis. She wasn't just taking on a new job. She was trying to hold a country together after it lost its leader, all while navigating the halls of power as the very first woman to ever hold that position.
But to really understand the leader she is today, we've got to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the beginning. Because her story doesn't start with a powerful political family or a ton of money. Nope, it started in a much more humble place, which honestly just makes her rise all the more extraordinary.
Her beginnings were, remarkably normal. She was born in Zanzibar, her dad was a school teacher, her mom a housewife. And her first job? It wasn't some fancy government position. She was an office clerk at just 17 years old. She got married, raised 4 kids, and built a life that was really centered on her family and community. This foundation, this experience in everyday public service, is what would end up defining her entire career.
But get this, while she was working and raising a family, she was also relentlessly hitting the books. And this wasn't just about collecting degrees, this was a really strategic pursuit of knowledge. From Tanzania and India all the way to the UK and the US, she studied public administration, economics, community development, you name it. This wasn't the resume of a flashy populist, this was the toolkit of a dedicated public servant, methodically building the skills she'd need to govern.
Okay, so with this incredible foundation of expertise, she steps into the political arena. But her rise to the top, it wasn't some meteoric, overnight sensation. It was a slow, deliberate, step-by-step climb through the ranks of Tanzania's very complex political system.
You can really see her methodical approach right here on the screen. She spent a solid decade building her reputation and her base in her home region of Zanzibar. Then, in 2010, she makes that crucial leap to the national stage, winning a seat in the National Assembly. And that wasn't just a promotion, it was a really strategic move that got her a key cabinet post and eventually led to her historic selection in 2015 as the first female VP candidate for the ruling party. Every single step was deliberate, building credibility piece by piece.
But yeah, this journey wasn't exactly a walk in the park. As you can imagine, she was often the only high-ranking woman in a room full of men. And in that kind of environment, she absolutely faced sexism and was frequently underestimated by her male colleagues. To get ahead, she had to craft a leadership style that was uniquely her own.
And this quote from her just says it all. I may look polite, but the most important thing is that things get done as I say. She basically turned what some people saw as a weakness for soft-spoken demeanor into an incredible strength. The message was crystal clear. Don't you dare mistake my politeness for a lack of resolve. Her focus was always on getting the job done. It was a style of quiet effectiveness that became her political brand.
So for 5 years, she serves as a loyal vice president. But then, in early 2021, everything changes. A series of chaotic events, wrapped in rumor and a lot of uncertainty, would catapult her from the number 2 job straight into the nation's highest office. It was a turn of events that nobody, and I mean probably including herself, could have ever fully seen coming.
Man, that transition was just a blur of shock and confusion. For weeks, President Magufuli hadn't been seen in public and rumors were flying everywhere about his health. Then, it fell to Vice President Hassan to go on national TV and deliver the devastating news to the country. And just 48 hours after that, she was taking the oath of office herself. It was a whirlwind 72 hours that put her at the helm of a grieving nation.
And her inauguration, wow, it was historic on so many levels. She wasn't just Tanzania's first female president, which is a huge milestone for the entire region. She was also only the second president to ever come from Zanzibar. That was a deeply significant moment for the semi-autonomous islands and their place within the nation.
So right away, the question on absolutely everyone's mind was, what now?
Would she just continue the policies of her predecessor, the notoriously tough John Magufuli, or would she decide to carve out a new path? Well, the answer came fast and it was decisive. It signaled a major pivot for Tanzania, both at home and on the world stage.
The difference was like night and day. On COVID-19, she did a complete 180 from his denialist stance, embracing science and vaccines. Whereas government had silenced critical newspapers and media outlets, she reopened them. I mean, these weren't small, subtle policy tweaks. They were very clear, very deliberate breaks from the past. And this new direction continued across the board. She opened up the political space, releasing prisoners and lifting a ban on opposition rallies that had been in place for years. She opened up the economy, getting back in touch with the international community to bring in investors and tourists. She even starred in a travel documentary herself to promote the country. The message was unmistakable. Tanzania was open for business and open for democracy once again.
Now, those early moves earned her a ton of praise. People were calling her a real reformer. But as her presidency has gone on, the picture has gotten, well, a lot more complicated. Her time in office has also been marked by actions that have drawn some pretty sharp criticism, and they've raised questions about just how deep her commitment to democratic change really goes.
Because there's this other side of this story that's frankly pretty troubling. Despite all those early hopes, major constitutional reforms everyone was demanding have been put on the back burner. Even more alarming, arrests of activists have continued, and there are serious allegations of state brutality. And just recently, a decision was made to bar the main opposition party from the 2025 election. These actions are a stark contrast to her initial reforms, and they've got human rights groups and international observers really concerned.
Which brings us to the big, fundamental question of her presidency. Her story is still being written, so who is the real Samia Suluhu Hassan? Is she that genuine reformer who promised a new dawn for Tanzania? Or is she a pragmatist, forced to make tough compromises to survive in a really complex and difficult political system? The answer to that question is going to define not just her legacy, but the future of her entire nation.